So what exactly was it that the Zionists got wrong? To make that point, we'll start by talking about the things they got right. The Jews are the most persecuted group in the history of the world. As the most persecuted group in the history of the world, they should take action to ensure their security, and the establishment of a Jewish majority state is an effective method of achieving that goal. The reason for that is because the most frequented attack vector that beleaguered the Jews throughout their history is internal hostility, anti-Semites we lived in the midst of, turning against us and doing unspeakable things. But if you ensure that the majority of your citizens are themselves Jewish, that creates a firewall that eliminates that attack vector by ensuring that if a citizen is attacked for being Jewish, his attacker will effectively burn himself in the process, as he is also Jewish, which is why I call it the firewall. It essentially limits the perpetuation of anti-Semitism within the state to those seeking self-harm or the non-Jewish minority that live here as exceptions to the rule. And this is why the majority of Israelis support Jewish nationalism, because we're all fundamentally Jewish humanitarians who want to see our people thrive. However, this is as far as the Zionists went when it comes to making good decisions. Because while they were effective at preventing internal hostilities, they completely neglected an absolutely critical component, which is external hostilities. See, I'm a big fan of the UFC. As I said, fighting is in my DNA. One of my favorite fighters in that league is a distinguished gentleman by the name of Chael Sonnen. Chael Sonnen, besides being the longest reigning undefeated champion in the history of mankind, is famous for one particular quote fight fans often delight in.
Oh, I wish. I can't wait.
But can we talk now?
No, I don't want to talk. Who about to want to talk? Oh, you want to be my friends?
But I feel
You
like...
want to shake their hands? But no.
Yeah. Do I Good morning.
I'm not going to be your friend. I'm going to hurt you. I don't like you, and the dude's going to like you. No.
I'm just asking if
Well, now. Well, now. Well, now. Well, now.
Stanley, stop.
Well, now.
You
Well,
have
now.
to stop.
Well, now.
I can't let you get close.
Can you hear my...
I can't let you get close. And if we were to summarize the failure of the Zionists in one sentence, that sentence would be it. They let them get close. Not only did they let their enemies get close, they let them as close as humanly possible and remained passive. Under no circumstances is it acceptable to neighbor your sworn enemies. You do not neighbor people who are sworn to destroy you, and you certainly don't neighbor people who are sworn to destroy you and enact a policy of self-defense at the same time, justifying your right to defend yourself after letting them throw the first punch. That is gross incompetence. It's downright criminal, and no worthy leader would consider that a valid rule of engagement.
They can shove it up their ass, okay? That whole thing was created by some wimp somewhere about the other guy has to throw the first punch. If you're engaging me aggressively and I let you within arm's reach, I'm a sucker if I allow you to throw the first punch. Okay, the first thing you do, and remember this, if your dads weren't smart enough to tell you, if you learn how to fight from your moms or from your wimpy teachers in your liberal school districts, you don't let somebody get within arm's reach of you when they got that look in their eye. You keep them back. And if they break the distance, you always hit them first.
The truth is, if you can't fight terror aggressively with annihilation campaigns, you shouldn't be around it at all. And that's why I say my primary opposition to the state of Israel is the location. It's very simple and entirely factual. The placement of the state of Israel in the land of Zion is the worst strategic decision in Jewish history. And the attempt to conceal that fact under Zionist pseudo-humanitarian claims, leveraging our heartfelt appeal to Jewish suffering and some people's idea that the best way to address that suffering is through the erection of a Jewish state, by claiming this would be a haven, to justify your dogmatic insistence to live in your ancestors' homeland should be viewed as one of the greatest crimes ever perpetuated on the Jewish people. The truth is, you didn't save us. You moved us from the Third Reich to the Fourth Reich. And great, you prevented classic anti-Semitism, but what good is that if you replace it with counter-terrorism? You wanted to build a haven state, but you can't build a haven state that's also a counter-terrorist outpost. If it's a counter-terrorist outpost, it's not a haven state. And obviously, you can't prevent external hostilities entirely, but it's on account of your failure, talking to the Zionists, that issue is orders of magnitude more severe than it otherwise would be, with zero practical reasons to justify it. You didn't choose this location for its natural resources, or the beautiful locations, or the wonderful weather. You put us in the largest concentration of anti-Semites anywhere on earth, in blind obedience to ink on paper, written 3,000 years ago. And on some level, every citizen of Israel understands this. They may not be able to articulate it as eloquently as I just did, but they do understand that. It is my concern that without this articulation, they'll never even reflect on the magnitude of this disaster and its root causes. And it's absolutely critical that we all see once and for all what the true state of Israel is, in both its glory and its downfalls. Instead of being stuck on old cliches our parents and grandparents trumpeted as we watch more and more of our loved ones die. So let's break this down further and get into the details. My first question to the Jewish people is a simple one. What did you expect? Not this, obviously. Nobody expected this. But what did you expect? Dating back to Ben-Gurion, when you deemed it wise to build the only Jewish state of all the wonderful places in this world in a barren desert full of swamps and demons, in what world is it strategically acceptable to establish a foothold in a location that's surrounded by the largest concentration of your very worst enemies? How many lives did you expect to sacrifice upon making that decision? What did you expect when you deliberately selected a place you can't leave without a plane, where the only direction that isn't full of hundreds of millions of enemies is our back that's facing the sea? What did you expect the military spending to look like? How did you expect to pay for it, knowing we have no natural resources? What did you think that would do to the populace? More importantly, why did you decide to turn our lives into hell on earth, doom us to an eternal struggle for survival, and face satanic barbarity for as long as we remain in our so-called haven state? Anybody taking a brief look at the map can deduce the Aliyah was a death wish, on the scale of taking a raft out to the heart of the ocean in a storm. You don't have to be a strategist to figure that one out. If Sun Tzu wanted to plan the most effective trap for Jews to be in, the worst possible place on earth for our safety, he'd have looked at the map and put Israel exactly where it is today. And yet, we're told Zion is our haven. For all those who'd say that wasn't a choice and this was our best option, Bullshit. If they truly cared about us, they would have fought harder. We didn't need to fight terror to build our haven. It was a choice made by dogmatic, religious imbeciles, one that's cost the lives of tens of thousands of Jews and the health of hundreds of thousands more. Yes, you heard that right. Hundreds of thousands. Sounds exaggerated, doesn't it? It sadly is not. Let's do a little speed run for all the useful idiots who still have the gall to believe Zionists are your allies. Here's some fun statistics for you. The number of Jews who've been murdered in the state of Israel over the last 75 years is close to 30,000. Our number of injured is breaching 200,000. The sole reason those 250,000-ish Jews were either hurt or killed was for the fact that they were born Jewish. Most of those casualties were the outcomes of wars, but you can't compare that to other countries that fought for national or economic reasons, because all our wars, without exception, were persecutional. Comparing that to our history of persecution, if you lump Georgia, Sweden, Brazil, Australia, Argentina, and Canada together throughout their entire existence, they still don't reach the Jewish mortality rate of Israel. Adding up all the pogroms of the world right after the Jews were expelled from Alexandria in the year 415, it took us about 1,000 years to arrive at the Jewish murder count Israel alone has managed to reach in merely 75. After the collapse of the Second Temple, Titus's conquest of Jerusalem, the Bar Kokhba revolt, Emperor Severus' Purim massacre, the Jewish expulsion from Spain, the Holocaust, and the pogroms in Ukraine, the foundation of Israel in the land of Zion is the 8th deadliest event in Jewish history. And it could be argued that it's the second worst event, seeing as besides the Bar Kokhba revolt, every other massacre was inflicted upon us, and this is one of the only two that occurred by choice. If that's not enough for you, consider this. The foundation of Israel in 1948 has led to nearly 10 times the Jewish deaths caused by the Crusades and the Spanish Inquisition combined. And every one of those numbers is a name, and every name is a life. There are fathers, mothers, brothers, sisters, sons and daughters, couples, friends, and even acquaintances. Nobody deserves to live in terror or die by it. You need to understand, our location is the main reason we're living in terror. And the reason we're located where we are is due to a myth. And this is me being so biased towards Israel, it's actually disgusting, because I'm comparing modern times to medieval times where human life meant nothing, as if that's an apples to apples comparison. Meanwhile, the United States has existed for 247 years. 6 million Jews live there, and to this day, one of its worst memories regarding our people is the lynching of a single boy in the 1920s. It's been 100 years, but they still know him by name.